I will tell you a few words about Amnesty International and how we work. But most of all, I would like to say that I really feel that I'm privileged to be one of more than 7 million people working in Amnesty and working for human rights. Actually, when we say about Amnesty International, we speak about staff who are working in different offices all over the world. But most of all, we are speaking about activists, about volunteers, about supporters who maybe don't have a lot of time, but at least once in a while can sign petition or can go to the action and give their voice on behalf of human rights. As you can imagine, in the contemporary world, we are quite busy. We have a lot of reason to be busy. Just imagine then, in countries like Syria, every 20 seconds, one person decides to leave their home. It's a very difficult decision, and they have a lot of reason to do that. They have a lot of reason because actually in each hour, 5 people die in Syria. So when we speak about our world and when we speak about our time, we can certainly say that it's a historic moment. It is a historic moment because since Second World War, we have the biggest refugees crisis. We have millions of people who fled their homes, who left their countries, and who are trying to find a shelter. Only in 2015, 1 million people reached Europe. They used fragile, small boats, being in danger. Some of them died in the Mediterranean Sea. Some of them were rescued as these people on the big boat. But the thing is that when they decide to leave their countries, when they decide to come to Europe, they are actually still in danger. This journey is very dangerous for them. So they are seeking for shelter. They are hoping to find a peaceful place. They are hoping to find safety. But there is a lot of reasons why they can't find it. One of them is that we are very scared. One of them that we are not really willing to share their problems. One of them is that governments and the politicians find it much easier to decide to build the fence on the borders and not to think about how to face this challenge. So we can see that in European Union, even in European Union, borders are closed sometimes between member states because of refugees who are coming. So for us, it means that these people are still in danger. These people are part of our world. It is happening now. We are part of that history. So we really have a lot of reason to think what to do, because instead of only describing the world as it is, difficult situations are happening all the time. Activists are prosecuted in many countries. People are tortured, and nobody is charged for that. Instead of complaining, actually, the idea is to light the candle and to try to change it. It's a very old idea. It's actually from a Chinese proverb. But Amnesty started a long time ago, more than 50 years ago, because one person read a story about situation in Portuguese, situation about 2 students who were jailed because they wanted to have a toast for freedom. So he wanted to react. And once he reacted, he managed to find the people who joined him. And then in different countries, other people joined these initiatives, and they started actually to send letters on behalf of people who were in prison only because of their political views, only because of their opinion, not being violently involved in any kind of violent activities. So the result is that we have now, that we have actually big organization with 7 million people all over the world, but the result is also that human rights became very important part of political doctrines. Of course, this is not a finished story. We always have to do it again and again to repeat why it's important and what's going on in the world. So what Amnesty do exactly is actually, first thing is that we are trying to find out what is the credible information, what's going on in a particular place where people are dying, where people are persecuted, where people are forced to leave their home, where people are not knowing anything about their relatives or friends who just disappeared because somebody came at their door, knocked them and took them to car and nobody saw them afterwards. So one of the steps that we make at the beginning is collecting and verification of information. But then it's very important what we do with this information. Of course, we go to decision makers, try to lobby them, to convince them that there are some things that they have to change because they can. But in order to do that, what we have to do is actually is to mobilize society, to mobilize people to raise their voice, to join Amnesty or other organizations or other human rights initiatives, to spread this message and actually to put some pressure on the decision makers to do it. Another important thing is actually in supporting our work is education. Sometimes we just forget that actually human rights education should start from a very, very, very earliest age. So one of our important parts of work is actually education and training. We train people to learn how to claim their rights. This is very typical action of Amnesty International. It's action on behalf of Raif Badawi. Raif Badawi is a blogger who lived in Saudi Arabia and who was very critical about clerics' engagement in politics. Because of his views, he was jailed, he was fined with more than $250,000. He got a ban of traveling abroad, but he's supposed to spend 10 years in a jail, and he's supposed to be flogged. They decided to flog him every Friday, to give him 50 flogs every Friday until it reached 1,000 flogs. So people all over the world learned about Raif Badawi. People all around the world decided to act. They went in front of the embassy, they sent the letters to the king, they share information among their friends on the internet, and Raif Badawi is still in the prison. But he was also flagged. On the 7th of January 2014, he was flagged for the first time. And up to now, he's still in jail, but he was not flagged again, because authorities are having that in mind, that people are really, really, really engaged in this story. They are really engaged. They really care about Raif Badawi. So this is one of the reasons why people are in Amnesty, because they are together and they can do joint action, and this action can change somebody's lives. Sometimes it's not easy to organize massive public action for different reasons. Sometimes it's just that you don't have friends around yourself that share your ideas. But sometimes it's just the idea to be one single person and to say, I myself don't want to join this idea that refugees' rights can be traded. It's action that is talking about Turkey-EU deal, recently signed and realized. The deal is actually about refugees, that people who come to Greece as a part of European Union, they are sent back to Turkey. And this deal is, of course, also connected with the other exchange of services between the countries. So the idea is that we don't agree with that. Refugees can be traded. People sometimes ask us, so why don't you do something that these people who are fleeing Syria stay in the neighboring countries? Well, they do stay in the neighboring countries. What we are trying to explain is these people are actually mostly in the neighboring countries. Only in Jordan, there is more than 600,000 people. And their situation is very, very difficult. If we see that 1 in 15 is injured and they don't have access to health care, there's no reason to ask ourselves, why do they want to leave Jordan? Why do they want to try another place for safe living? The problem is that, and we are trying to solve that problem, that people sometimes just don't want to hear that, or they just don't want to know what kind of experience it is to be in such a place like this. It is not a town, it is the refugee camp in Jordan. Immediately, nothing can be changed. And this is very important lesson that each of us has to learn. It's a very important lesson because it shows us how patient we have to be. How patient we have to be and how careful we have to be when we are expecting results, but also when we are engaging people and promising them. The first thing that we do is actually spreading a word that resonates, word that can find its echo. In order to do so, we need the people who will share this word. And being on the workshop on Monday here, I heard one thing that really stayed in my head, and it was that people know that things are bad. People know that, for example, refugees are not received by rich countries. But on the other hand, if everything is so bad, nobody cares. Why should I feel bad if I don't care? So what you should do, said one of the participants of our workshop, is give me a good news. Show me that things are working. Show me the people that are changing the world. Show me the people whose life was changed. Show me that I should feel bad if I don't care. So this is Albert Woodfox. He was one of the person who really has to learn what the patient is. He spent more than 40 years in jail. Actually, he spent most of his time in a solitary cell, isolated completely for other human beings, having 1 hour per day to leave the room for a while. And he was sentenced because of the murder that happened in the jail when he was there. But after so many years, after so many appeals, after so many people being engaged on his behalf, he is free because there was retrial, there was additional examination of the evidence, and he was found innocent. So this is one of these good news that we can share. This is one of these human stories that are really a proof that each of us is actually much more powerful than we think. In order to do so, in order to mobilize people, in order to reach people, in order to share the idea how powerful we are when we act on human rights and when we act together, we are using some very, very ordinary tools. One of them, let me start with the history. One of them is actually so-called urgent action. It is the method that Amnesty established a long time ago in the time of its founder, Peter Benenson. It is action based on the qualified information, verified information about one particular person or a group that is just facing human rights violation. And this information is then shared with the people who want to react. In the old times, it was shared via ordinary posts or via telephone conversations, and then these people were reacting, writing ordinary letters. So the massive answer on the urgent action appeal for many people meant that they left jail earlier than it was expected. Or for many people meant that they eventually find out what happened with their relatives and the friends. For many people meant also that they can't sleep at night because they, as the perpetrators of the crime, cannot enjoy impunity anymore. It was very, very traditional way of our work. But apart of that, we are now using some of the very common tools that I don't have actually to present to you, such as emails and the social media and